You've replayed that conversation 100 times. You know you should stop. You've told yourself to stop. But something in your brain won't let you. And that's not weakness. That's not a personality flaw. That's obsession. And once it takes hold, your brain literally cannot stop on its own. What's worse, certain people know exactly how to trigger it, and they use it. This is the dark psychology of obsession. And by the end of this, you'll never be the same. Most people confuse obsession with passion. They think obsession is just really wanting something. But that's not what it is. Passion moves you forward. Obsession loops you back. Obsession is a cognitive pattern, a mental loop your brain gets stuck in, replaying the same thoughts, the same scenarios, the same person over and over. It's not a choice, it's a malfunction. And neuroscience has a very specific explanation for why it happens. Your brain runs on dopamine. Dopamine is your reward chemical. It fires when something feels good, when something feels exciting, when something feels possible. And here's the critical part. Dopamine doesn't reward what you have. It rewards what you're chasing. This is why obsession feels so much like desire, because biologically it is. Your brain has locked onto something, or someone, as a reward. And every thought about them fires a small hit of dopamine, which makes you think about them again, which fires more dopamine, which makes you think about them again. It's not a slot machine you can walk away from, because the machine is inside your head. And some people have figured out how to become that slot machine for you on purpose. Here's something that will change how you see every relationship you've ever had. Consistency doesn't create obsession. Inconsistency does. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful psychological forces that exists. When a reward is unpredictable, your brain becomes hypervigilant. It can't relax. It can't move on, because it's always waiting for the next hit. Think about the person in your life who ran hot and cold, who was incredible one week and distant the next, who made you feel chosen, then made you feel invisible. You probably thought about that person far more than someone who was consistently good to you. That's not a coincidence. That's intermittent reinforcement working exactly as designed. Trauma accelerates this. People who carry unresolved wounds from early in life, abandonment, neglect, unpredictable caregivers, are neurologically primed for obsession. Their brains learned early that love is uncertain. That connection has to be earned. That silence means danger. So when something triggers those patterns as an adult, the obsessive loop starts faster and runs deeper. In 1981, John Hinckley Jr. shot President Ronald Reagan in an assassination attempt, not for political reasons, for a woman who didn't know he existed. He had watched the film Taxi Driver over 15 times. He became obsessed with Jodie Foster's character. He wrote her letters. He called her. And when that wasn't enough, he decided to do something so significant she would have to notice him. That is what untreated obsession does when it meets the wrong conditions. It doesn't feel like madness from the inside. From the inside, it feels like love. There's a line between intense feelings and dangerous obsession. The problem is, that line is invisible from the inside. Psychologists distinguish between 3 different patterns that get lumped together under the word obsession. The first is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, where intrusive thoughts create anxiety loops that the person desperately wants to escape. The second is obsessive personality, a rigid, controlling pattern of thinking that affects every area of life. The third, and the most dangerous, is erotomania and delusional fixation, where a person becomes convinced of a relationship that doesn't exist. What all 3 share is this: the person cannot step outside the loop. The thoughts feel true. the feelings feel justified. The obsession doesn't feel like obsession. It feels like clarity. Celebrity stalking gives us the clearest examples because the obsession is documented. Rebecca Schaeffer, a rising actress, was murdered at her front door in 1989 by a fan who had been obsessing over her for 3 years. He had written to her. He had collected everything about her. In his mind, they had a relationship. In reality, she had never seen him before the morning he killed her. But here's where this becomes about you, and not just extreme cases. Think about the last time you checked someone's social media, someone you knew you should stop thinking about. Think about the last time you analyzed a text message for hidden meaning that probably wasn't there. Think about the last time you couldn't sleep because your brain wouldn't stop running the same scenario. Obsession doesn't begin with stalking. It begins with ordinary attachment. It begins with a brain that isn't getting closure, and that decides to keep searching until it finds it. And that's exactly the vulnerability that certain people exploit. Here's the part nobody talks about, because it's uncomfortable. Obsession feels good. Not always, not cleanly. But underneath the anxiety, underneath the helplessness, there is something that feels like purpose, like meaning, like you matter to the story you're stuck inside. This is because obsession fills a void. It gives the brain a mission, and a brain with a mission is a brain that feels alive. Without obsession, there is just the flatness of ordinary life. With it, everything feels elevated. Everything feels significant. Neuroscientists call this rumination, the tendency to replay painful or unresolved thoughts. And here's what they've found. The part of your brain that processes physical pain and the part that processes social rejection are essentially the same region. Your brain does not distinguish between a broken arm and a broken heart. Both register as threats to survival. Both demand attention. So when you're obsessing over a person, your brain isn't being dramatic. It's responding to what it perceives as a genuine survival threat. And now, think about why you're watching this video right now. Think about the true crime content you consume. Think about the psychology videos you click on. Think about why the dark, the disturbing, and the obsessive feels so much more compelling than the pleasant. Your brain is drawn to darkness because darkness signals threat. And your brain never wants to be caught off guard by a threat. You are not broken for being obsessive. You are human, running on a brain that was never designed for the world you live in. Obsession isn't a character flaw. It isn't proof that you're too sensitive, too intense, too much. It is your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. Seek, reward, repeat. Lock on to the unresolved and refuse to release it until there is safety. The dangerous part isn't the obsession itself. The dangerous part is not knowing that it's happening. Because the moment you can see the loop, you're no longer completely inside it. And the people who exploit obsession? They rely entirely on you not knowing this. They depend on you believing that what you feel is unique, uncontrollable, and real in a way that nothing else is. Now you know differently, and that changes everything. If this made you think differently about how your mind works, subscribe. There's a lot more where that came from.